welcome you all to another episode of Analytics Week Leadership Podcast. Today we have with us Beena Ammanath from Predix Group at GE. So to give you a quick intro on Beena, so she heads the Predix data science product at GE and senior technology executive with over 25 years proven track record of building core big data science and AI competencies. Focus on strategy, execution, and operations for turning data into meaningful, revenue generating, innovative product and solutions. With an impressive tenure driving innovation, change, developing top talent, she has been instrumental in building three successful startup organizations within GE. As a leading visionary in the data and analytics space, she is recognized for defining the global strategic directions and implementation of innovative solutions with marquee companies such as Thomson Reuters, British Telecom, and E-Trade. Beena has an MS in Computer Science from University of Pune. She is also a board member of Chick Tech and has been a keynote speaker at Women in STEM Summit, Female Executive Leadership Conference. So Beena, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Vishal. Thanks for having me.
So that's actually very impressive bio, by the way. Definitely, it's always pleasure to talk to executives who have AI and pretty much like hands-on experience on things, leading the charge, because that's one of the areas that we definitely crave interesting leaders to be emerging from. So love to have you on board on that. Yes.
Thank you.
So yeah. So as an intro, so why don't you start with your journey through this data and analytics space, your current role, whatever you can share, and just send us pretty much a light on why you are where you are and what's fun and what's going on.
Yeah, so currently I'm at GE and I head the data science products team. What that means is we are looking at our best practices, things we have done within GE as an industrial company to establish data science as a core competency and productizing it and making it available for our customers, for our partners to use it as they start on their analytic journey. My career path has been pretty much in a tech. By training, I'm a computer scientist, and I have been lucky enough to be in the technology arena for many years now, and primarily focused on the data. Like I've grown through the ranks, so I've played multiple roles within the data space. For me, it has been fascinating to watch how the technology has changed. Like you look at it 20, 25, 30 years ago, it was all about transactional databases, OLTP. We knew Oracle, SQL Server. It was really about running queries and building applications, and with client-server technology. Then about 15 years ago, it started going into the BI and data warehousing space, where the way we did data modeling changed, the way we were using the data changed, and it was very much around being able to build reports to see what happened with the data. Now it's all about being able to predict what will happen. So as the technologies have evolved, the way we use the data has changed, and it is just very interesting to watch that whole journey. I think we are lucky enough to stay in a time and age where you can see how the use of data has changed over time,
Right.
and it's fascinating for me to see what could happen next. Right, like we were looking at how to use data, and then it was very focused on capturing data and looking at the trends. And now it's very much around predictive analytics. But what's going to happen in another 10, 20 years? And that's where the field of AI is going to drive a lot of that. So I think we live in an interesting time, Vishal.
Interesting. So I think you partly went into my next question as well. So definitely one perspective that you bring on board is having an with your current work, being part of a manufacturing company or manufacturing led technology company. So what really so what is data science to that, like a group, a pretty much like an industrial company? So from your
Yeah.
perception, like what exactly does that really mean?
From a manufacturing company, like, see, if you look at it, the global manufacturing sector is a $10 trillion sector, right? And I think it is ready for a disruption. And I think it's the next wave of the industrial revolution. So it's interesting to see how we can apply data science, how we can apply artificial intelligence. And I'm thinking beyond. We've talked about robots, so that's what people usually connect to when we think about digital transformation. But I'm looking at it more as if we are able to connect all the machines together and be able to build the digital thread from the machines to the data to the products and feed in the customer feedback back into the product design, there's a whole new value story there. Even today, there is data science is used very much for optimizing factory operations, being able to predict when a machine will be down and
Right.
then managing your production line accordingly, or boosting equipment utilization or product quality. While reducing the energy consumption. So you'll hear a lot about how factories are becoming more smarter, and they're brilliant factories all around the world now.
Right, interesting. So I think couple of I think months back, I met one of the steel plant executive, and actually I went into an interesting conversation with this guy, and his perspective was, Vishal, it's all Greek to me, like data science and all whatever, right? So, and my job is to produce yield and whatever, right? So, and I have certain ingredients, I have whatever, and I'm looking at the output. So it's not for us. Like, so what is your perception, being coming from that side, that how would someone tackles this leadership? Because there are a lot of industries who are struggling with their current like yield maps, let alone sort of now being very futuristic on using data to sort of reduce the wastage and whatnot. How do sort of someone sell to these executives these kind of capabilities, if at all?
Yeah, no, and I think what you're bringing up is a very valid point. You can really the adoption of data science. How do you drive the adoption of data science within an industry that has been around for so long? It's very easy to sell data science in a consumer internet company or a company that has been just founded in the last few decades,
Right.
right? But you're looking at companies which have been around for 100 plus years. It's not easy. So the adoption of data science is one of the toughest challenges we have, being able to change the culture. And it also depends on the age of the factory itself, in terms of, like, how long have the workers been there, how long has the plant managers or the executives been there. And there is a lot of intrinsic domain knowledge that exists in these people. And it's very tough to convince them that a piece of software can
Right.
actually predict when a machine will go down. And they are so used to being able to intuitively guess when a machine will go down. It takes time to convince. And I think the only way around it is really to keep showing that value continuously. And so, I've been at factories where the workers have been doing it for 30 plus years,
Right.
and they just don't live in a world where there are apps for everything,
Right.
right? And when you try to put an app which is going to predict when a machine is going to go down into these factory floor workers' hand, it's not welcomed as easily as you would think.
Right, and I think, and you brought a very interesting point on the culture, right? So that's one of the most engraved thing in a manufacturing is their culture of and their belief system on sort of what works and what hasn't worked. And I think you're spot on with the fact that there are people who have been with this company for 30 plus years, and now asking them to change this with this rapidly evolving paradigm would be a nightmare. So what are some of the interesting sort of suggestions or some of the insights that you could provide to help other practitioners or other sort of hopefuls dealing with these kind of scenarios to help their companies bring this cultural change of this data driven and analytics driven manufacturing?
Yeah, I think there needs to be a lot of top leadership support. And most of the leadership is aware because, as I said, as factory workers, as people who are working in a manufacturing plant, there's a lot of intrinsic domain knowledge. And there's an inherent awareness that as this workforce changes over time and millennials come in, how do you pass that kind of domain knowledge which is
Hmm.
in somebody's brain? And there are no manuals that exist for that. So I think the first step is obviously getting in the leadership support, and then to start small, find out the key pain area within a manufacturing plant, and then do a proof of concept, build a simple app that can solve it for to solve that
Hmm.
particular problem, and continuously keep repeating it. So I think it's really about going small, showing some quick wins, and working closely with the key stakeholders and the people who will be impacted the most in a positive way with that app.
I think beautifully put. So having a good leadership support, showing some quick wins, creating like an app, like an incentive plan. So definitely some of good insights for people to follow up on. So let's talk about your journey. So you have been when I was reading this, I was thinking that you have been all over the place. So you have been with E-Trade, you have been with telcos, now we have manufacturing. So like what are some of the commonalities across these industries that you think that has helped you stay relevant and stay sort of useful as you were sort of cruising along in these industries?
Yeah, as I've said, as I was saying earlier, Vishal, that I've been lucky to be in the data arena. My
Hmm.
focus has been very much in the data space, and I've worked in startups, I've worked in mid-sized companies, I've worked in large companies, and different domains. I think the way I've always looked at it is not the technology itself, but the outcome the technology can drive. What is the impact that the technology can have in solving a specific business problem? I'm very interested in technology, but it's the use of technology that fascinates me more. So I believe the technologies change over time, and if you look at just the past 30 years, right, the technologies have evolved and changed, but the way we use data has changed as well. But it's always about driving real positive results. It's also important when you are a technology executive to stay current on the technology space as it's evolving, and being able to influence it in a way that can help you reach your results faster.
Interesting, and definitely some good insights there. So one thing that I was thinking about is and again I'm just going back to your sort of good experience, past experience. So you have been also managing teams of various sizes, right?
Yeah.
So what are some of the key insights, or some of the hacks or some of the best practices that you have gained to managing this data driven tree teams as you're going along?
Yeah, so I have managed teams from 5 to 200 people, across throughout my career. I have set up organizations from scratch. I have inherited organizations and managed it, and it has been quite a learning experience. One thing that's always worked for me is to have a very clear vision for the team.
Mm-hmm.
Communicate it and focus on achieving the vision. Like, don't build a data science team or a BI team just because it's a new buzzword, it's what every other company is doing, but build it with a very specific reason, build it to solve a very specific business problem. So, build it to take your business to the next level. Technologies come and go, but it's important to be able to define very clearly to your team on what impact they will be driving for the organization. That keeps them motivated.
Mm.
Also, as a leader for any technology team, I think it's important that you stay connected with technology itself. So I read a lot, I attend conferences, as you mentioned earlier, I do, I give keynote speeches just to stay in touch with the industry. Don't stay wrapped up in just the domain that you're on. Like, if you're in financial industry, don't just attend fintech conferences. It's always good to know what other people are doing with the same technologies, and you'll be interested. It's very fascinating to find out how the same technology is used in different ways in different domains to solve completely different problems. And the last thing I would say, and this is not just for technology teams, but in general, it's being available for your team. Your team should be your first priority. I strongly believe and follow the principle that I'm only as good as my team,
Right.
and success is truly a team effort. So, that for me has always worked.
Interesting. I think again some good insights here. So now let's talk about Predix, right? So what exactly is Predix, and if you can shed some light on what it is doing in GE and what's the future, if anything we can share about that.
Yeah, so Predix is a cloud-based platform connecting machines, data, and people. Yeah, we expect Predix to do for factories and industrial companies what Apple's iOS did for cell phones, really transforming the whole industrial internet space. So it enables industrial scale analytics to drive a number of business outcomes for industrial companies. Um, I believe it's a game changer. It gives us the intelligence to not only tell us what's going on inside a machine, whether something is wrong, but what can we do what can we do before it affects our customers. It is like being able to use analytics to prevent flight delays or to prevent patient delays in a hospital. Like if we are able to predict when a certain engine is going to fail or when a certain part within an engine is going to fail, and we can then prevent a flight delay, that is impactful. And that's what Predix aims to do. Let me give you an example. So, like any other machine, a jet engine collects dirt and corrosion as it flies over different areas, and you have to wash it on a periodic basis. This is a big deal since a water wash can increase its efficiency from 1 to 18%. But here's the deal: if you do it too often, it becomes too expensive. And if you do it too less, if you wait too long, then you burn more fuel and wear your parts. So with a platform like Predix, you are able to predict what is the optimal time, how frequently should a engine be washed for its optimal performance. So those are very specific use cases for analytics in an industrial setting. And I gave the example of a jet engine, but it could be for a locomotive, it could be for a tractor, it could be for any industrial equipment. And GE itself is going through a transformation of becoming a digital industrial company. As you know, GE has been around for 124 plus years, and it's been an industrial company. But now we are leveraging the power of software, data, and analytics to become a digital industrial company. It's all about making our machines smarter to drive better outcomes for a business, and Predix is at the heart of it.
Interesting. So let's talk about bunch of opportunities that you see in manufacturing, because I think that's another area that what are so if I like if I have the capability, and I believe that there is manufacturing needs these leading edge and these capabilities, and we know that the entrepreneurs or the leaders in manufacturing are not savvy enough. So what are some of the interesting opportunities that I should invest into, or I should sort of explore as an entrant to this industry that I could probably pitch in?
Yeah, and this is something very common that I've seen, and I would say identify most the most critical problem that you're currently facing, and see how it can be solved with data. And if it usually if you bring in a data science team or a chief data scientist, they can help you walk through it. Don't just I've seen companies get a Hadoop cluster just because they want to do big data, but it's very important to stay anchored in the reality of what the business is going through, what the business is trying to achieve. So usually when I talk to any customer, whether it's within GE or outside, it is like, what are your top 5 pain points? Find those top 5 pain points and then work on figuring out how it can be solved with data or analytics. Now, some cannot be solved with data, and those are kept aside, but there usually is at least one that can be solved with data and analytics, and that's what you take as your first use case and then solve it and get the buy-in from your stakeholders, from your employees, from your customers, as you show that first success.
Interesting. Definitely, it makes sense. So now let's talk about challenges that a typical manufacturing company faces, and at least that you have, at least from your lens, heard about or experienced. What are some of the interesting challenges that you see businesses facing, that you, like you say, uh, probably they need a help.
Yeah, and I was surprised when I started working with industrial companies initially, as how different it is from, say, a typical Silicon Valley environment, right? How different the employees work, how the culture is very different. When you are in the technology industry, and especially in the software data and data analytics space, you are so technology savvy, you're so used to having solutions, having apps which can predict anything for
Hmm.
you, right from the weather forecast to if a flight is being delayed. But in the manufacturing world, it's truly a different world. And for me, from what I've seen, the biggest challenge is the culture. The second challenge is um, it is even the from a data science viewpoint. It is, there are problems that exist that have never been solved before,
Hmm.
unlike consumer internet, right, where you know all about targeted marketing. Like if you look back at it, Vishal, like the whole big data or data science came into the forefront with the consumer internet, right, a couple of decades ago with Google and Facebook and LinkedIn. It was, very, very much used. Machine learning was very much used for targeted marketing, for displaying the right ads, for paid search, and so on. But from a manufacturing lens, there are problems around like factory optimization,
Hmm.
predicting when a certain equipment will be down. Those things have never been done before,
Right.
right? So you cannot really Google for something and find a solution right out of the box.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Um, so even from as a technologist, it is innovative stuff, and then getting the actual user to get buy-in, that's a completely different aspect. Like we are so ingrained on using the internet or to Google for anything. Now, a lot of the manufacturing workforce is all about they have that domain knowledge inside,
Hmm.
right, in their head because they've been doing it for years. In a manufacture, in our world, it is likely that we would have done like 5, 6 jobs or 10 jobs in our career.
Right.
But in that world, it is more about they join it from after college or after school, and that's their career. That's one job for the rest of their life. So there's a lot of inherent domain knowledge, and so it's just very different than you and me. And
Right.
the problems that exist are also very new from a data science perspective, from an analytic perspective. The kind of data that exists is different. It's not about looking at the user profile and then doing targeted marketing. It is more about building a profile for a machine and then say, and we call it the digital twin, building a digital twin for a machine and then being able to predict its behavior,
Hmm.
anticipating that behavior, and then build prescriptive analytics that can actually fix it.
Interesting. And I think definitely so. One opportunity or sort of one area that I see, and I feel sorry for manufacturing companies, by the way, for this, that is IoT, because let alone, so you have your own systems. So let's say in the case of a company like GE, right? So you manufacture your own stuff, but also there are some other vendors, some other parts, products, whatever, right? And they come with their own sensors, they come with their own capabilities, their own IoT maybe frameworks, and so how let's start with the Predix, right? So how a platform like Predix handle those scenarios, handle the scenarios of multiple vendors sending their IoT stack or stuff, and you're dealing with, like, you are pretty much your own sort of vendor as well in that relationship. But like, how would Predix help in that scenario where you have a lot of IoTs and the data happening?
Yeah, so you want to think of Predix, it's an open app platform. Anybody can put their apps, their analytics, or their data sets onto Predix. You can, it's the what we provide from Predix perspective is more around the scalability. The biggest thing is also around the security aspect and providing an infrastructure that is capable of industrial grade analytics. From a customer perspective, we are able to partner with any vendor. It doesn't matter. They can build their own apps and put it on Predix, leverage Predix as a platform.
Interesting. Now talk about now let's talk about, say, if I am dealing with, say, company A, B, and C, and they all provide me their own IoT frameworks. So what is some of the best practices that you are seeing from your area? Like, how should I handle those? Because every platform come with their own sort of cloud-based IoT monitoring dashboard or whatever. So does that mean creating a lot of APIs and having a service like Predix, and sort of, like, who is doing the heavy lifting on that? Like, is a company like GE with Predix making those partner relationship with IoT manufacturers, saying, hey guys, I can share your ontology, or I'll give an ontology in which we can share data and whatever, so that clients.
Yeah.
So yeah, what do you think of that?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, absolutely. I think uh, uh, we are leading the industrial internet. So I think we have an industrial internet consortium, which is a company of most of these partners, and we are coming up with the standards, the governance rules, the security rules around it, in a partnership model, and then implementing it on Predix so that it can be a common framework. And you touch an interesting point, Vishal, is, this whole IoT space with big data is so new, right? There's a lot of hype around it, but there's a lot of groundwork that needs to be done. Like, and I'll give you, like, the security aspect, right? The security aspect from a big data perspective. When, as I said, big data was built very much from a consumer internet perspective. The security needs over there are completely different than what you would need to have to keep, say, jet engine data safe. Safe and secure. Jet engine, as it is transmitting data to a secure cloud, it needs to be very, very secure. In a consumer world, or look at it from an analytics perspective, right? When I say industrial grade analytics, here's the difference. Like, in a consumer world, if your analytic doesn't work, if it is not giving accurate result, what's the worst case scenario? You will get a wrong ad displayed, right? Or worse, your shopping cart crashes. But in an industrial space, if you have an analytic that is predicting when a certain part in MRI machine is going to fail, and if it doesn't work accurately, it's going to result in a long wait for the patients. So I think the parameters, the way you evaluate models, the way you build models are extremely different in an IoT space versus a consumer space, and a lot of these rules, the legalities don't exist, and so there is a consortium around it called the Industrial Internet Consortium, which is kind of doing this foundational work.
Interesting. No, I think that's, again, you're hitting a very interesting point here. So I was actually talking to a bank, and one of the global banks, and they say that now they have branches in Europe and Asia and whatnot. And Europe is a bit stringent on data sharing and whatnot for their, like, for the bank employees, let alone their customers. Now talk about IoT, like a sensor being placed in Europe versus sensor placed in US. How would that sort of transform? Because I think that's another nightmarish scenario, right? So now think about a sensor breaking legality bounds because of whatever, right? So what are you seeing from your lens? Is that a problem yet that you're seeing, or it's something that probably will emerge sometime in future?
No, it is actually rapidly emerging, and there's a lot of work going on in the background to lay down the new rules, right? The new governance, the new laws, which just doesn't exist in a cybersecurity world from an IoT perspective. So it's rapidly emerging, and it is something that companies like GE are working on to address, because we really can't um, make progress. We really can't, scale out if we don't address those issues now.
That's true, and I think it's great that big companies should pitch in, because I think that's it's first it's a it's and the company which are actually with that size, they can do something about it, so that the new entrants could actually leverage that learning. Definitely, that's very 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 cool to know. So now let's talk about some of the interesting use cases that you're seeing in the industry. Uh, like what are some of the fascinating stuff that you have heard people doing in industry, in industrial manufacturing companies or IoT space, that pretty much you said, wow, this is amazing.
Yeah, no, there are quite a few, but one comes to top of my mind. I don't think it's as much IoT or manufacturing, but I was talking to a friend of mine at Berkeley, and he was telling me that they're working on putting together this patch. It looks like a tiny little band-aid, and you can put it anywhere on your body, and it's doing continuous health monitoring.
Wow.
It's like a Fitbit, but wrapped as a health monitor, just continuously monitoring your blood pressure, your bodily fluids, your temperature for antibodies. And it can, when what they're trying to do is embed it with logic, so that if it detects that you might be coming down with the flu, it obviously has an app. It will tell you that you need to up your vitamin C.
Right.
So those that's fascinating for me. Like, it's beyond a Fitbit now. It is just a tiny patch that you put, stick on your body, and you go about your normal stuff. Probably don't, you probably don't even have to do any of. If you're a diabetic patient, you don't
Right.
have to do blood sugar monitoring, every day. It's going to do all this health management for you. And can you imagine the possibilities as this, a technology like this takes off, right? One thing that I see in the IoT space, and that's very fascinating for me, is like, think as all our medical equipments get connected. Of course, the security and anonymization
Hmm.
part has to be addressed. But as machines get connected, if all the medical equipments in the world were connected, a patient comes in and goes in for a scan, and there's a certain anomaly detected in the scan. Before the doctor even sees it, that machine has polled all the other machines in the world to find a similar anomaly, to get the doctor's notes to see how was it addressed, which was the
Hmm.
most effective um, treatment. And now you are able to present not only that the scan, but also what has worked in the past. That is
Wow.
life changing. That is, now the machine has been able to talk all the other similar machines and provide what has worked in the past to make this patient's life better,
Interesting.
right? And it's not. I don't think we're at a point where the machine will prescribe it, but at least it's giving it to a human doctor who can now make, who has all that data at his fingertips.
Interesting. No, I
So
think definitely. Uh, yeah, I think sensor is fascinating to see where the sensor world is going. So I think one of the so it's consider it as opinion poll, whatever. So thinking about open source versus enterprise, right? So what, like, which side of the lake do you fall in? So should an industrial company go for an open source solution, or should they go for enterprise? What's your personal take on it?
both. Both. I think it depends on the use case, and um, really the parameters around it, right? Depending on depending on the needs that you have, maybe around security and governance, and with the maturity of the technology you want to use. I think it has to be a combination of both for any company.
Interesting. So now let's talk about individuals, people in the manufacturing companies. So if suppose I'm a budding data scientist, and I want to get get placed in this industry, so what are some of the hacks or some of the best practices that typical a company, industry manufacturing company look for, that I should prepare myself to be successful in that?
Yeah, so besides the training, I mean, it would be
Hmm.
good if you had a background in manufacturing or science or statistics or artificial intelligence. That's a given. I would say passion and curiosity, because a lot of work we do is has not been done before.
Yeah.
You have to be curious. You have to keep, digging into that problem to find out a solution for it. It's not something that you can call up and ask somebody. It is not something that you can just search for and you'll find a solution. There is no easy copy paste mechanism here, right? So and that's what I tell my team too. Like whatever we produce is has to come from your brain. It is truly limited by your brain power. So it's all about how far can you go in
Hmm.
solving a specific problem. In a manufacturing company, in an industrial setting, you're usually working on problems that has never been solved before, right? And also at the same time, you want to solve that problem, but you don't want to do it just one time, right? Just one time for one machine for one factory. You want to also solve it in a way that it can be used more broadly, that it is
Hmm.
scalable. You want to be able to productize it. And so it's a very innovative field to be in. So I would say, with along with the technical training, curiosity and passion is something that can make you successful in this field.
Interesting. So now let's talk about, I think, and this is my last question, but I'll not bug you more. So, and thank you so much for being patient and sort of being very candid about your responses. So very helpful. So what are some of the overblown areas that you are seeing in the industry? So some of the keywords that you say, we are over with this. Now let's get the conversation to the next level or whatever. So what are some of these opportunity points that you see that, hey, we should actually move ahead and over from that?
Uh, this will surprise you, but I think data science or data scientist, or at least the way it exists or is defined today, I just think that in a few years, data science is going to be so pervasive and specialized that it will be in everything, right? The application of data science has no end, but the way we do data science today will change. It has to become more specialized. Like we currently have generic data scientists who we expect to solve different problems using different problems with the same skill sets. And I think over time, the domain knowledge, being able to bring in that domain knowledge and matching it with the technical knowledge is going to be very critical. And there's also, if you've seen some of the newer technologies evolving, you'll see that there's a whole lot of movement going on around being able to, it's called the citizen data science, right?
Right.
Letting anybody do machine learning. There are already tools and technologies being built that is going to be let anybody be a data scientist. So you'll see how it will be interesting to see how that whole space evolves. And I think the way we define data science is going to change. The way we define the role of data science scientist is going to be changing. There always will be a need to
Right.
be able to look at data and drive insights, but I think it will become even more specialized skills and specialized technologies.
I think it's well put. And by the way, when I was saying that, one question comes to my mind which might be relevant to my community. So I said I'll ask one more, and then I'll stop bugging you on that. So let's talk about an aspiring company or startup. So and I think we partly discussed in the session as well about this scenario. And if suppose I have a team of 3 fabulous people, they do analytics, they do play with all the tools, they play with R, Python, whatever is out there. What would you suggest them? What should they do to pitch a business who are seeking this solution? Like, what are some of the good hacks or some of the good areas through which they can actually pitch their product to a manufacturing company? If I can have your quick thoughts on that, that will be awesome.
Yeah, no, what, as you were speaking, I was thinking, move from solution to product. Like if you set yourself up as a more services company, you cannot scale. You want to be able to automate certain parts of it so that you can scale to different manufacturing plants. Otherwise, you'll be just doing solution for a very specific manufacturing plant, and then it's a pure resource play. So being able to think in terms of products is very important, especially in data science field where we don't have many data science products.
Interesting. So thank you again. Thank you, Beena, so much again for sharing your time, your knowledge, and being very candid about bunch of these areas. And definitely, it's a delight to know what a data science folk at an industrial manufacturing company looks like and thinks like. So that's a very, very key insight for us. Thank you so much. Love to have you on board again in couple of months to sort of discuss your story. How has you been progressing, and love to know any further insights that you do. And thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.
I thought I was sick of home, but actually I was homesick. Never really knew that I would have to grow up so quick. I'm so uncomfortable, don't know anybody here. Just a couple dudes that I met once, that's it. And I go into the booth feeling nervous. Got butterflies in my stomach like I'm so worthless. Is the mic on? I don't know how to work this. Inside I'm breaking down, I hope I'm not up on a